fan of the Chinese community at King's. I'm actually a big fan of China in general. I'm in China very often, and I have 2 books published in Chinese, so I'm a great fan of the culture, and we have loads of students coming here trying to absorb essentially the British culture. So it's a great addition to our cultural diversity here at the university.
I had an experience of teaching 30 Chinese students last semester, and it went quite well. I think Chinese students are very hardworking, and most of the Chinese students were very interactive during the lectures, and I really enjoyed teaching that module. I think one of the advantages is that there are many Chinese students at King's College London, so they can always find support if they have any problems or if they want to ask about what they should do next after they finish their studies at King's. They can always find support from other students. Also, another advantage is if, for instance, if they come for masters and there is a scholarship which is called King's Chinese Scholarship, and this also allows Chinese students to continue their studies at King's after masters, and if they want to deepen their knowledge in a specific area that they are interested in, it's a very good opportunity.
Since I joined King's College, in fact, my first PhD student was a Chinese student, and from him I've got a very positive view of Chinese students, in the sense that they are always hardworking, they are honest, they are willing to put the work in, and they have usually had a previous background in doing work and have a good work ethic. In the main, it's the work ethic and the way they work, which is impressive for me from the Chinese students.
Well, Chinese students are really a pleasure to work with, and they're kind and polite and respectful in general. That's what I can say about most of them. Very well mannered, and really they're really a pleasure to have here.
So one of the really great things about our Chinese student community is that they come in with a very high level of education. So clearly the educational system in China is really great. The basics are very good, mathematics and all that, the logical thinking. It's really wonderful. So it's fairly easy to take.
Okay, I can talk about only Chinese student in MSc, which I teach. I can't talk about Chinese student in all King's College London. The student in my class so far, they are good students.
I think there's lots of different challenges. Yeah. So I think, firstly, I know a little bit that Asian and Western culture is quite different. Certainly in a studying or a working environment, and actually I've spent some time not in China but in Japan working, so I can imagine that you have very different expectations from your professors and the interaction with the staff at the university. So I can imagine that it's quite difficult to get used to the fact that you probably have to be more independently minded when you're here. You probably have noticed that there is maybe less hierarchy.
Yeah.
There is more familiarity between students and staff, and I can imagine that if you're not used to that, that can be quite intimidating to some extent, because you don't know quite how you should behave around them.
Now, on the parts which could be improved is, of course, the language. Language is very different. It's a very different language family. So we struggle sometimes as lecturers to engage with the Chinese students. So if you can come to London with already some English prepared and being ready also to raise your arms in the lecture and be a bit more proactive, makes our life easier, and you learn so much on the run. But the basics are really great.
Shyness is some problem. For example, they are afraid to ask questions in the classroom. When I ask them, "Do you understand?" All of them said yes, yes. But I've never heard somebody say, no, could you repeat? That kind of shyness. The second one, they never practice their English. Always I tell them, you're here to gain knowledge, for example, telecommunication, and at the same time improve your English. Unfortunately, majority of them, they don't try to improve their English. For example, they talk to each other all the time in Chinese. They don't mix with foreign students. Try to practice their English and so on. That is the major problem with them.
Their knowledge of English is really not where they should be. So sometimes it's very, very difficult to teach them and communicate, especially to supervise on projects. And that is kind of becoming a little bit of an issue nowadays.
So I guess the main thing is to try to think independently. So try to find ways of working where you study things because you're interested in them, not because you've been told to study them. So I think one of the big differences over here is that one of the things that I find commonly with some Chinese students is that they expect me as a supervisor or as a lecturer to say, you have to do exactly this and this and this.
Like give them specific tasks.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And actually I think that the philosophy or the way that we teach in this country is that you should be interested to learn for its own sake. So learning how to learn and study by yourself.
Like find your own interest in your subject.
Exactly. Yeah. I think when it comes to coming to King's College or the Department of Informatics specifically, it's always a good idea to see what things the members of staff are doing. So you see us as teachers, but we also do a lot of research.
Yeah.
And most of us have very specific research interests, which are easy to find out because we have web pages and we publish papers.
Yeah.
So if you're thinking of coming to our department specifically, then you can go to the King's website, you can look up different members of staff, you can usually tell what modules they will be teaching, but you can also see what their research home pages look like and what kind of topics they do as part of their research work. And that will mean that you have some knowledge about, why they care about some topics and, what gets them really excited, what kind of new technologies, what kinds of new science and engineering they do.
One thing that I would actually suggest, and that's becoming really important, is that they make sure that they have very good command of the language before they come to study here. And that would make them actually benefit much more from studying in the UK than if they don't have adequate preparation. It might appear as like, I'll go and then I'll make my way through, but it might be just like a waste of time. Definitely, I would suggest that they consider doing their PhDs here in the UK, and the best way to do that is actually doing a project with a supervisor. One thing that I'm noticing is happening is that Chinese students apply for PhD as soon as they start their masters here. And then it's actually very, very difficult to make a decision whether to accept them or not, because we don't really have much information to judge their quality. Maybe it's a better idea to actually finish masters and then apply, and that would give them also better perspective on what kind of project in which area they would like to work on. There are many different areas, many different problems in communications computer science, electrical engineering. So I would suggest actually not to rush into decisions on applying for PhD programs. Better to wait maybe a year, or perhaps go back to China and kind of have better perspective on what actually is best area and what is the best university for them.
Some of them doing very well in master courses, and I recommend them to stay for PhD. But get more knowledge, the state of art knowledge, and at the same time improve their English. When they go back home to China, would be more useful. But some of them, they want to go back. And then I give them advice. When you go back, you work in the company. What you have to do to be successful. It seems that they're lacking confidence. If they got confidence and they are motivated, they do great jobs.
I don't have any specific expectations from Chinese students. I expect the same from all of my students to focus on their studies and also plan in advance, for example, whether if they would like to go to industry after they finish their studies at King's, or if they want to stay in the academia, plan these things in advance and take the necessary steps, professional development activities to achieve their future plans.
I would say the King's College master's degree or the undergraduate degree that you come for teaching, for top degrees, it gives you a very solid platform that you can build on and go forward to a new career. So I would say look for what you really want to get out of life. And that's the same thing whether it's Chinese or not Chinese. You don't go to a job because you think that's a job which pays you more. Don't choose a career or a field or a profession simply because that's what your friends are doing. Look deep into yourself and see what is it that really ticks you. Like what is it that makes you happy? What is it that when you're doing it, time just flows. If you don't know, how much time is going when you're doing some work, then you know you've found the right job for you. Right? So whether it's PhD or whether it's going in the industry line, all of them are equally good. You just need to find what works for you.
I've had a great year this year with my entire teaching courses and also the large Chinese population. I wish you really all the best. I'm sure you'll be doing really great. I hope I've given you some great lessons for life, and I want you to become leaders in your field. I want you to become the next chief technology officers, the next chief executive officers of your companies, whether you own one or big corporates in the world in China. Make a difference, and remember us here at King's College in London.